Re- Good morning. This is Rebecca Simon Peter with Spiritual Mojo. 15 minutes to up level your faith, uphold your consciousness, and uplift your spirit. It's delightful to be with you today, and I am decidedly happy to share with you about the election results. I watched, as many of you did, the counting of ballots and the turning in of numbers, and it was a very exciting moment in American democracy to watch how this all really works in real time. Because of the prevalence of mail in ballots as well as same day voting, we really got an amazing history lesson this last week. Now, I don't know if your candidate won or lost. I don't know if your hopes were uplifted or your dreams were dashed. Um, Wherever it is you stand, I invite you to look at some of the really positives that have come out of this experience. One, we have broken a glass ceiling. We have elected a female to the White House as vice president. Kamala Harris is a woman of great achievement, and she's Jamaican. She has one Jamaican parent and one parent from South Asia. And so she's biracial, she's multi ethnic, she's female, she's smart, she's competent, and she is savvy. So it's a really great day for us, right around 100 years from the time that women got the right to vote. We have elected a female to the vice presidency. I am so excited about that. Number two, if you watched the acceptance speeches last night of Joe Biden, President elect Joe Biden, Vice President elect Kamala Harris, you notice something. You notice that there was a vision for a common good that was put forward. Not the details of it, but the sense of let's give it a try. Joe said something along those lines, let's give it a try. Let's try this thing out with each other. And what he was able to do so beautifully was to acknowledge that we don't all see things the same, but it doesn't mean that we're opponents. It doesn't mean we're adversaries. It doesn't mean we're enemies. Now, that's different kind of language than what we've been hearing for the last 4 years. And I find that extremely hopeful, because there's this sense of a common vision can lead us forward to a common good. How remains to be seen. It's going to be uphill. There's a lot of people that are upset. There are people that are putting forward claims about the election being stolen. And I don't think that the news sources that they listen to let them know that the mail in ballots were likely to be strongly in favor of the Democratic ticket, which is too bad because then they felt ripped off. They felt lied to. But that's why it's so important to have trustworthy, reliable sources of news that inform us as citizens of a democracy. I think that's just really uplifted the need for that. And when you lead, okay, when you're leading in a congregation, when you're leading in your family, when you're leading in a nonprofit group, when you're leading your neighbors, when you're leading, it's super important to make sure people have the facts, because even if they don't like the facts, if they have the facts, they're going to be able to process factual items and be able to come up with logical kinds of conclusions. What I'm seeing, not only do we know that President Trump is given to lying, but some of the news sources that put his information out there have not been giving people the facts. Therefore, they were able to feel ripped off, and maybe they simply did not have the facts. It's incumbent upon us more than ever, even as we deal with lofty ideals, spiritual values, and conflicting worldviews, that we do share facts with each other, because that's one really important way to make sure that we can move toward a common good, toward a common future, toward a common reality, because we're dealing with common set of facts. Now, there are three things I'd like to lift up that I think were super important about the speeches and about the ways to lead people together in the future in America. Before we do that, though, I'd like to say that there were some things President Trump did right. There are some things he did well. But what was so challenging about having him as our leader, our shared leader, was his way of being. His way of being did not call us to our highest good. It did not call us to a common vision. It did not uplift us. And when you are working towards leading in a way that uplifts all people, here's some things to keep in mind. You can read more about this in my blog, How to Lead Across Divides. Effective leaders speak to both the center and the margins. Maybe it's the center that got you elected. Maybe it's the center that's in your inner circle. But you also have to speak to the margins, because when you're called to be a leader, whether you're elected, whether you're appointed, whether you're apply for a job and you get it, when you lead, you're actually leading all your people, the people at the center, the people at the margins. How do you do that if not everybody's in agreement, if not everybody voted for you, if not everybody likes you or wants you? It's really important to bring all people together with a vision for the common good. I think about Jesus. Now, when he first began to promote his vision about the kingdom, he was here for the Jews. He was very, very clear about that. But some people from the margins said, hey, what about us? And Jesus expanded his vision to include Gentiles. If Jesus could start off leading to the Jews and expand his vision to include the Gentiles, then you can do that too. And let us watch for President Biden and Vice President Harris to do that. If they're not doing that, let us call them on that. Let us call them on that so that they can be responsive to all of America and to all that we stand for. Number two, effective leaders. Effective leaders, and I saw this last night, understand that they must first embody the kind of behaviors that they want to see in the followers, in the crowd, in the people that they're leading. Very important to do that. President Lincoln showed that he must bring a society together that was riven by civil war and competing values, and your followers too will rise or shrink to the standards that you set them. I think that's one of the things that we found so disturbing about President Trump was the level of behavior and what he called his people to. That he told white supremacy groups to stand by. What does that mean? We're in a multicultural society. We must have space for everyone. We have to. That's who we are. That's America. We are not a white-only society. And honestly, we never have been. And we're certainly not headed that way in the future. I, for one, am very, very glad about that. President Trump seemed to foment violence in himself and in his followers. And that's what we get. President-elect Biden seems to have a very different way. Joe, he's got a friendliness about him, but also a high standard and a high calling to what we can be. When he said we may look at things differently, but we're not enemies of each other. Okay, he's going to set a standard that will call us to that. If he doesn't, we got to call him on it. Kamala Harris speaking how we're going to bring all people together. So when you are leading, be careful that the kinds of behaviors that you yourself are exhibiting are what you want to see in your followers, because people will follow you. They will emulate you. The disciples followed Jesus. They emulated him. That's how they were able to do the things he did. That's how they were able to perform miracles. They emulated his behavior. They emulated his faith. People will emulate you, okay? No, you're no Jesus. You're no Joe Biden. You're no President Bush. You're no Abraham Lincoln. And they're still going to be watching. You're no Kamala Harris. Well, maybe you are. They're still going to be watching you, and they're going to emulate your behavior. So make sure as a leader, you're behaving in the kinds of ways that you want to see multiplied and reflected back in the world around you. In creating a culture of renewal, the 3-year group coaching program that I lead for church leaders, we teach people that your people can go no farther than you can lead them. They can't rise higher than you will rise. They can't be more magnanimous than you will be. If they'd like to be more than what you are, they'll actually leave your particular tribe. They'll go someplace else where the standards are higher or the standards are different so that they can be in alignment. So remember to rise high. Remember to speak widely, to include people from the center and the margins, because your people will need that. And then third, effective leaders exercise high accountability. They hold themselves accountable to their word. They hold themselves accountable to the highest ideals. And they set high expectations. So not just are they holding themselves accountable, but they're setting the expectation that you will rise to that level too. Doesn't mean everybody always can 100% meet their own expectations or that you will. But part of high expectations and high accountability is grace. When we offer grace without expectations, without accountability, it's not really grace. It's just kind of letting people off the hook. But when there's a high standard and you're clear about what that standard is and you call people to it and you yourself exercise it, you can offer grace when people don't meet that and ask them what will it take to get there. Part of that is that when you lead, you own everything that came before you. Like all that is now your problem. It's not the other person's problem. That's your problem. And it's on your plate. And it's for you to solve. It's for you to rise to. It's for you to fix. And also everything that happens on your watch, it's on your watch. That's part of what it means to be a high accountability, high expectation leader. It starts with you. So that means blame goes by the wayside. Judgment goes by the wayside. Pushing it off on somebody else, it goes by the wayside. You own it all. That's one of the things that many of us found difficult about really claiming President Trump as a leader for all of us, because he didn't own responsibility for everything that came before him and the consequences of his own actions. Let's see what happens with President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris. We must call them to that. They're going to inherit the United States of America in exactly the shape it's in, and it's now going to be on their plate. What will they do to bring us forward? We must lay aside blame. We must lay aside judgment. We must work together, shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart, mind to mind, for the common good. This is where we're at. This is what we got. What are we going to do with it? High expectations bear great fruit if the leader will live into them. If the leader will understand that they embody the kind of behaviors that they will see in their followers, and if that leader speaks to both the margins and the center. I invite you to take on those three principles for yourself, whether you see yourself as a leader or not, whether you see yourself as a follower. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, doesn't matter if you're a Republican or an independent or undecided. Try that on for size. Those are the kinds of things we teach in creating a culture of renewal. The last thing I want to share with you today on Spiritual Mojo is that I'm hosting a series of conversations Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, November 10, 11, and 12, called Democracy, Faith, and the Common Good. We're going to look at the state of our democracy. What's the role of faith leaders and faith communities in that? And how can we move toward a common good when we don't even agree on common realities or a common set of facts? That's the work before us. I'm excited about it. I'm going to have very special guests that will be leading us in these discussions. You will be enlightened. You will be inspired. You will bring home new ideas to work with your people with, and I want you to join us. The time will be from 11 a.m. to noon Mountain Time, Tuesday, November 10th, Wednesday, November 11th, Thursday, November 12th. Democracy, Faith, and the Common Good. Please go to RebeccaSimonPeter.com and you will be able to register there. Just look for the register button. RebeccaSimonPeter.com, Democracy, Faith, and the Common Good. I look forward to being with you. These are very exciting times, and I encourage you to keep your consciousness uplifted, your spirit up-leveled, and your faith upheld, because the world is also looking to you. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter how small or large you see yourself, the world is looking to you for you to have a high vibration, for you to have a spiritual mojo that makes a difference in the world, for you to have a consciousness of kindness, of unity, of togetherness, of can-do-ness, okay, of love and of forgiveness. If we are going to move together forward as a nation, as a people, definitely disparate people with different points of view, if we're going to be able to move together, it's going to take each one of us to radiate a consciousness of love, peace, willingness, and as Jesus put it, to love your neighbor as yourself. This is Rebecca Simon Peter. This has been Spiritual Mojo. I always look forward to being with you. That's this week's message, and we'll see you next week at Democracy, Faith, and the Common Good, and then Spiritual Mojo next Sunday. Take good care.